All right, Brian. So now we're going to get into one of our fun segments here, and I'm going to really try not to bottle this, but sitter, half volley, long shot. It's going to be a weekly segment we do every single week.
Yep.
So to explain kind of what those three categories are, a sitter, think of this as a tap in, a shot with an XG value of 1, guaranteed points. A sitter is a player with a high probability of putting up big numbers for the week. These players have a fantasy floor, a high fantasy floor, and usually feature a favorable matchup. That's going to be your sitter. Okay, we're each going to pick one of each of these categories. The half volley, this is a more difficult shot. If you hit it right, it has a good chance of scoring. But if you lean back too much and hit it wrong, you've skied it. A half volley player is a boom or bust. Their fantasy floor is a bit lower, and it's a fantasy pick with some risk involved. Last but not least, our long shot. Kind of self-explanatory, right? But think of this as Brandon Cervania's bomb from distance last year, or Jakob Glesnes' goal versus LAFC a few seasons back. It has a low probability of scoring, but when it goes in, it's unexpected and looks great. A long shot in terms of fantasy is a player that most people overlook, but when they put up big fantasy numbers, you look like an MLS fantasy expert for picking that player. Brian, you get all that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Brian. So we're just going to go, you'll go sitter, I'll go sitter. You go half volley, I go half volley. You do long shot, I do long shot. So go ahead, go first. Who is your sitter and why?
Yep. All right. My sitter is Lucho Acosta. Like I said before, I'm just super high on FC Cincinnati. They've got a plus matchup at home against Houston. Houston is just one of the worst teams on the road. Like I said earlier, minus 13.2 expected goal differential. They might not have Brenner, based on earlier reports, as we talked about earlier. But I mean, it just shouldn't matter. They've got Acosta still, like I said, and that's why he's my guy here as a sitter. They also still got Vasquez, somebody for him to distribute it to. And Acosta at home last year had at least one goal contribution in 12 of his 15 home games he played in. 80% of the time. I just love that high percentage of just getting a goal contribution in this game. And so last year he had 7 goals and 13 assists at home in 2022. So I just absolutely love the production he gets at home, and he's got a plus matchup as well. And he had 9 million. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good. I got another guy at home. I got another guy in a really good matchup. Another guy at 9 mil. My sitter for this week is Sebastian Driussi versus St. Louis City SC. Like we mentioned earlier, Sebastian Driussi had 3 goals and 2 assists in his first 2 matches last season. So getting off to an early start is in his back pocket. And the last 5 expansion sides have given up an average of 2.4 goals in their inaugural match. St. Louis City is going to give up goals. They just lost one of their starting caliber center backs, and Driussi is going to make them pay for it. Sebastian Driussi is my guaranteed point getter, my sitter, my tap-in pick of the week.
There it is. All right, so my half
volley,
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun. I'm really excited about this one. I think actually this is probably my favorite out of all the picks, just because I think it's a little bit under the radar here. My half volley is Pedro Vite, coming in at $7 million for Vancouver. And actually, so even though Vancouver had a pretty poor season last year, they won their last 3 home games. They're coming in at home against RSL this weekend. And actually, Vite scored or assisted in each of those 3 home games that they won. And also, Real Salt Lake, while they were a top 10 team based on expected goal differential at home, they were just average on the road. So I think there's still an opportunity there, even though Real Salt Lake's got a really strong defense. I think Vancouver is still at home, can get the job done, and Vite can be a part of that, especially also because they signed Sergio Cordova from RSL. And I'd imagine, as this is generally the case with athletes, when they don't, find that money and get that money right with the team that they are on, and they are let go for any reason, when they get that chance to show them that they are worth that money, with a rematch, they tend to show out. So I also can see Pedro Vite maybe distributing an assist to Cordova as well. So he is my half volley.
I love that. So my half volley is about 2 mil more expensive, but I believe there's reasons why he's a half volley. He's not a sitter by any means. Okay. That's Luis Araujo from Atlanta United matching up against the San Jose Earthquakes. We mentioned all those lovely stats earlier. There's going to be goals scored in this game, but Luis had the worst goals minus expected goals stat last season with -5. Again, that is the worst in the league. but he also had the sixth most shots per 90 at 3.99 shots per 90 last year as well. So the volume is there. He's just not putting it on net. But he did score a brace versus Cruz Azul and had a pretty good and productive preseason overall. There's goals to be had in that game. He's going to get his shots. He's going to get in behind. He's fast. He's speedy. He can cut it on that left foot. Now, the question is, does he score those goals? There's a lot of risk involved in that one, and that's why he is my half volley.
But at the same time, I mean, to score goals, you have to be in the position to have the opportunity to score the goals, right? So that comes first. So he's got the first part down. You just got to see whether or not he finishes it off this year. So my long shot, Bill Tuiloma. I really tried as a Charlotte FC fan to try to avoid Charlotte when I could, in terms of just trying to be a little bit more neutral on this show. But I mean, God, Bill Tuiloma, and I've seen this a lot in a lot of lineups posted on Twitter, in our mailbag. He's just coming in at a super cheap price at $5 million as one. I mean, on American Soccer Analysis, he was shown at per 90 on his goals added, like the best in all of MLS. He's coming into a new team where he's gonna like almost immediately just slot right into a starting center back role. And for week one, I mean, they're projected to have 60,000 plus in the stands, maybe even 70 again, which I think would be just remarkable to do that 2 years in a row. It's also going to just be a really emotional affair because of the tragic passing of Anton Walk. So I think there's just going to be a different kind of sort of element to this team this weekend. But it is still, I'd say, a long shot, right? Because they're still going up against New England. You still want clean sheets out of your defenders when you can get them. And having a defense go up against a Carlos Heel, who's just, I mean, one of the best players in all of MLS, is always a risk. So I think there's definitely still a risk involved, and he hasn't played with this team before, right? So I think there's a couple of risk factors that make this a little bit of a longer shot, but I mean, I love that value.
Yep. My long shot, another $5 million value player, another center back, Jackson Reagan. We saw him feature for the Seattle Sounders in the Club World Cup earlier this month. They face off against the Colorado Rapids in the opening weekend, and Seattle has won the last 6 home matchups versus Colorado, so it looks like a pretty good matchup for Jackson Reagan. And the Rapids won just 1 of 19 road games in all competitions last year. They were so poor on the road. So if that sort of form continues, a player at Jackson Reagan's price, but also the reason why it's kind of risky here is because Arriaga is also a center back and has logged a ton of minutes over the past couple of years alongside Yamar. And Jackson Reagan is this young guy. He got some minutes last year. There's competition there, so he might not play, but he's the kind of guy that you can use in a switcheroo situation. Kind of wait and see, so use that to your advantage. They're on the Sunday game, correct?
Yep.
So Jackson Reagan is kind of a wait and see switcheroo kind of guy. So
Definitely.
that's the reason he is my long shot this week.